Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us on this beautiful, if slightly wet, spring morning. We are the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Lower Bucks, and this is our Zoom Sunday service. So welcome. Welcome to this congregation where for over half a century, we've been seeking to foster community, to grow our spirits, to serve others, and to work for justice. We're very glad that you've joined us this morning in our sacred cyberspace, and we hope that you will experience love, acceptance, and inspiration. After our service, please feel welcome to stick around for our very informal coffee hour for some fellowship and conversation. Our monthly Touchstone themes strive to help us shape our days and guide our journey. And our April topic is mindfulness. Mindfulness is the quality and practice that overcomes our fragmentation so that we can experience wholeness. Mindfulness is the call to pay attention. M. Scott Peck said that the principal form of love is attention. Being mindful is paying attention to ourselves, others, and the world. Mindfulness requires skill, but its practice is transformative of ourself and our relationships. Our sermon today is from one of our very favorite guest speakers, Emily Quarles-Mowrer. And she's been coming for a number of years now, so I'm sure you'll recognize her. She's the child of a UU minister and has been preaching sermons of her own since 2006. She currently lives in Gilbertsville, Pennsylvania with her husband, her 2 daughters, 4 cats, and 1 very outnumbered dog. The title of her sermon today is The Stillness That Carries Us. The Heisenberg Uncertainty Principle tells us that a particle's position and momentum cannot both be precisely determined at the same time. British writer Pico Iyer said in his 2013 TED Talk, "It's only by stopping movement that you can see where to go." For some of us, this past year has been a time of enforced inactivity that allows us to focus on our current position. This morning, we will think about the ways that stillness helps us to move more deliberately through the world. Now, let us enter into worship together. Our Director of Religious Exploration,
Prelude.
Whoops, never mind. Our prelude this morning, that was picked out by our amazing musician, Avi Wisnia, is a beautiful song called Keep Breathing.
The storm is coming, but I don't mind. People are dying, I close my blinds. All that I know is I'm breathing now. I want to change the world instead. I sleep. I want to believe in more than you and me. All that I know is I'm breathing. All I can do is keep breathing. All we can do is keep breathing now. All that I know is I'm breathing. All I can do is keep breathing. All we can do is keep breathing. All we can do is keep breathing now.
Thank you, Avi. What a beautiful song. I don't know how he keeps coming up with these amazing songs I've never heard of, but keep breathing. Not just good advice, but to use that breathing and to focus on the here and now can definitely change your life. Please feel free to join me in reading our chalice lighting words as our chalice is lit. We light this chalice to celebrate the inherent worth and dignity of every person, to reaffirm the historic pledge of our religion to seek that justice which transcends mere legality and moves toward the resolution of true equality, and to share that love which is ultimately beyond even our cherished reason, that love which unites us. Our opening words this morning are by Eleanor Westbrook. Let every moment be a prayer. With every sip of tea, let your lips move in thanksgiving. Be fully present to every stroke of the hairbrush, every cup of milk you pour for the children. Be present without judgment or regret, without plans or expectations or even dreams. And every moment becomes a prayer. Beautiful, beautiful thought there. Our director of religious exploration, Angela Connon, has a wonderful message for all ages for us.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Today in service, you all are exploring the idea of stillness. And I think particularly the stillness we were facing, especially at the beginning of the pandemic when we were kind of all housebound and figuring out how to go on with our lives and our busyness. And we had this really kind of big period of forced stillness. And so I found this story that I thought would be really nice to accompany service today, and I hope you like it. It's called What If? What If is written by Samantha Berger and illustrated by Mark Corrado. With a pencil and paper, I write and draw art to create many stories that come from my heart. But what if that pencil one day disappeared? I'd fold up the paper till stories appeared. And what if that paper was no longer there? I'd chisel the table, then carve the chair. And what if there wasn't a chair here at all? I'd chip and I'd peel at the paint on the wall. And what if there wasn't a wall anymore? I might build a story from boards in the floor. Without any floor, I could still use the land and sketch out a tale in the dirt with my hand. I could still shape the leaves. I could still sculpt the snow. I could still plant the flowers and make kingdoms grow. Without any land, I would still use the light, invent shadow stories the sun would ignite. If there was no light, I would still use my voice to sing out my stories, to chant and rejoice. I'd still have my body to twist and to bend, to dance out my stories, beginning to end. If I had nothing, but still had my mind, there'd always be stories to seek and to find. If I know nothing but one bit of fate, as long as I live, I will always create. As long as I live, I will always create. And that's the end of the story, but just take a moment and look at this picture and look into all those lit up windows. Everybody's doing some kind of different creative activity. I just love that scene. So that's our story for today. I hope you enjoyed it. We are almost through this pandemic. We just got to hang in a little while longer. Got to protect everybody. I'll see you next time. Take good care.
Wow, that was an amazing story. I don't know how she keeps coming up with those great stories. As long as I live, I will always create. That's a profound message, and it's so true. We're always creating our own reality, and we can create love or we can create fear. In every single breath that we take, we have that choice. So I am very excited and pleased to introduce our musical interlude today, because not only is it performed by Avi, but it is written by Avi. And I think you'll see it's an amazing, beautiful song. It's called Find Me.
I start the day breathing, breathe in, breathe out, while sleep from my mind is leaving. Breathe in, breathe out, this dread draped on like a blanket. Breathe in, breathe out, and all I know is to take it. Breathe in, breathe out. But when night comes, it comes too soon, just as it falls on every corner of this room. It's calling me, it's calling me. Come on and find me. I start the day breathing, breathe in, breathe out. It's just my way of screaming. Breathe in, breathe out. But when night comes, it comes too soon, just as it falls on every corner of this room. It's calling me, it's calling me. Come here and find me. When night comes, it comes too soon, just as it falls on every corner of this room. It's calling me, it's calling me. Come here and find me. I start the day breathing, breathe in, breathe out, 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 breathe in,
Thank you, Avi, for sharing that gem with us. And it fits in so perfectly with our monthly theme as well. I feel much more centered now. So, I'm very pleased to introduce our guest speaker for her reading this morning, Emily.
Good morning, everyone. It's so lovely to see you all again. This morning, the reading that I have brought is from Pilgrim at Tinker Creek by Annie Dillard. She's one of my favorites. I've been thinking about my mom a lot recently because she was born and she died in the springtime. And so every time spring rolls around, that's who I think of. This is from chapter 6. It's called The Present. Catch it if you can. It is early March. I am dazed from a long day of interstate driving homeward. I pull in at a gas station in Nowhere, Virginia, north of Lexington. The young boy in charge is offering up a free cup of coffee with every gas purchase. We talk in the glass-walled office while my coffee cools enough to drink. He tells me, among other things, that the rival gas station down the road, whose free coffee sign is visible from the interstate, charges 15 cents if you want your coffee in a styrofoam cup, as opposed, I guess, to your bare hands. All the time we talk, the boy's new beagle puppy is skidding around the office, sniffing impartially at my shoes and at the wire rack of folded maps. The cheerful human conversation wakes me, recalls me not to a normal consciousness, but to a kind of energetic readiness. I step outside, followed by the puppy. I am absolutely alone. There are no other customers. The road is vacant, the interstate out of sight and earshot. I have hazarded into a new corner of the world, an unknown spot, a brigadoon. Before me extends a low hill trembling in yellow brome, and behind the hill, filling the sky, rises an enormous mountain ridge, forested, alive and awesome with brilliant blown lights. I've never seen anything so tremulous and live. Overhead, great strips and chunks of clouds dash to the northwest in a gold rush. At my back, the sun is setting. How can I not have noticed before that the sun is setting? My mind has been a blank slab of black asphalt for hours, but that doesn't stop the sun's wheel. I set my coffee beside me on the curb. I smell loam on the wind. I pat the puppy. I watch the mountain. My hand works automatically over the puppy's fur, following the line of hair under his ears, down his neck, inside his forelegs, along his hot-skinned belly. Shadows lope along the mountain's rumpled flanks. They elongate like root tips, like lobes of spilling water faster and faster. A warm purple pigment pools in each ruck and tuck of the rock. It deepens and spreads, boring crevices, canyons. As the purple vault slides, it tricks out the unleafed forest and rumpled rock in gilt, in shape-shifting patches of glow. These gold lights veer and retract, shatter and glide in a series of dazzling splashes, shrinking, leaking, exploding. The ridge's bosses and hummocks sprout bulging from its side. The whole mountain looms miles closer. The light warms and reddens. The bare forest folds and pleats itself like a living protoplasm before my eyes, like a running chart, a wildly scrawling oscillograph on the present moment. The air cools. The puppy's skin is hot. I am more alive than all the world. This is it, I think. This, right now, this present, this empty gas station here, this western wind, this tang of coffee on the tongue, and I am patting the puppy. I am watching the mountain. And the second I verbalize this awareness in my brain, I cease to see the mountain or feel the puppy. I am opaque. So much black asphalt. But at the same second, the second I know I've lost it, I also realize the puppy is still squirming on his back under my hand. Nothing has changed for him. He draws his legs down to stretch the skin taut so he feels every fingertip stroke along his furred and arching side, his flank, his flung back throat. I sip my coffee. I look at the mountain, which is still doing its tricks, as you look at the still beautiful face belonging to a person who was once your lover in another country years ago, with fond nostalgia and recognition, but no real feeling save a secret astonishment that you are now strangers. Thanks for the memories. It is ironic that the one thing that all religions recognize as separating us from our Creator, our very self-consciousness, is also the one thing that divides us from our fellow creatures. It was a bitter birthday present from evolution, cutting us off at both ends. I get in the car and drive home. Catch it if you can. The present is an invisible electron. Its lightning path traced faintly on a blackened screen is fleet and fleeting and gone.
Thank you, Emily. To be fully present is a gift. It really is. For our offertory this morning, the split plate recipient for the month of April is NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness. It is the nation's largest grassroots mental health organization dedicated to building better lives for the millions of Americans affected by mental illness. NAMI Mercer provides free, top-rated mental health programs and services for our community. A robust local affiliate of NAMI, NAMI Mercer listens, leads, educates, and advocates, empowering families and individuals affected by mental illness to build lives of quality and respect, free of stigma and discrimination. They help thousands of families and individuals every year. So please be generous. Now, our sermon.
No.
No.
Oh, yes.
Our sermon, The Stillness That Carries Us. Emily?
The stillness that carries us. In the middle of March, after several major snowstorms, we had a beautiful day. The sky was a brilliant turquoise studded with cotton ball clouds. The air was warm. Daffodil and crocus shoots were just starting to emerge from winter brown grass, and I decided that my dog and I could take an extra long walk in order to take advantage of the mild weather. We live a little less than 2 miles from a farm that the township recently converted into a permanently preserved park, and it has a bunch of nature trails. And rather than drive to the park, I thought, oh, today it's so beautiful, we can walk. So the dog and I set off, and mindful of my time constraints, I set a quick pace, which it pleased the dog. He actually would rather that I be a jogger than a walker, but he's doomed to disappointment in that. He set off trotting with his mouth open in a hound-type grin, smelling everything around him. And then something caught his interest and he stopped to thoroughly examine the scent. So I gave him a second or two and then jimmied him along because we had to get to the park, you see. There was only so much time before we'd have to get back in the car and pick up the kids from school. Well, he was fairly willing to go along every time he stopped. But he stopped more and more frequently as the route got farther and farther from our house, especially once we hit the roads that we'd never walked on before. And I was getting more and more anxious. How could we make it there and back? My head was not walking on the first nice day heralding the return of spring. In my head, I was calculating the amount of time we had left to walk, deciding which trail we could actually make it to. Can we even get to the parking lot today? Ooh, can I get a load of wash into the machine before I pick up the girls? Well, only if I get back in time. And wait, which classes do the girls have tonight? Did they have a can of chili so that I can make beans tonight? Or should I go to the store before I pick them up? And that'll take even more time. And wait, do I have to get the neighbor kids off the bus? Nash stopped again, and he wouldn't move when I tried to call him forward. Whatever it was smelled wonderful. And that was when I realized my dog was giving me a lesson in mindfulness. Nash was not aware that we had a destination. He was focused on enjoying the journey. Likewise, Nash was not sabotaging my timeline. He genuinely has no concept of time. He was living in the now. He was experiencing the leaf buds on the trees and the sun-warmed pavement and the scent traces left by the deer that drink from the retaining pond. To my dog, a daily walk is not a part of a to-do list. It's arguably the best part of the day. Certainly better than breakfast and dinner, which are both over within 45 seconds. This is the time when he experiences things other than a climate-controlled perch on our couch. That walk with Nash reminded me of the excerpt from Annie Dillard's Pilgrim at Tinker Creek that I read this morning. Dillard is experiencing the mountains and the coffee and the puppy unfiltered by her conscious self. She is noticing the moment she's in without judgment, simply compassionately accepting the world around her. Dillard was describing the experience of mindfulness. The Greater Good blog from the University of California at Berkeley defines mindfulness as a spiritual practice that involves remaining aware of and involved in the actual moment as it happens. Although the roots of mindfulness belong to Buddhist traditions, it was introduced as a secular practice in Western society, particularly by Jon Kabat-Zinn's mindfulness-based stress reduction program, launched in 1979 at the University of Massachusetts Medical School. Malcolm Huxter, quotes Kabat-Zinn in his blog post, A Buddhist Approach to Mindfulness and Meditation, as saying, mindfulness is the awareness that emerges through paying attention on purpose in the present moment and non-judgmentally to the unfolding of experience moment to moment. Kabat-Zinn decided that in order to be accepted and useful in Western society, particularly in the practice of Western medicine, the Buddhist context would need to be stripped away. According to Huxter, one of the major differences between the modern Western concept of mindfulness and the Buddhist concept of mindfulness is that the secular mindfulness is considered to be ethically neutral, neither good nor bad, whereas traditional Buddhist mindfulness is meant to be experienced in the context of cultivating wisdom and ethics. As an example of traditional Buddhist mindfulness, there's a story in the book Kindness, A Treasury of Buddhist Wisdom for Children and Parents that's adapted by Sarah Conover. It's about a young man who's angry at Buddha for visiting his town. He feels that the town is going to be taken advantage of by the Buddha and his followers. And so the Buddha has a conversation with the young man. This is how it goes. She writes, but the Buddha was unruffled by these insults. He remained calm, exuding a feeling of loving kindness. He politely requested that the man come forward, and then he asked, young sir, if you purchased a lovely gift for someone, but that person did not accept the gift, to whom does the gift then belong? The odd question took the young man by surprise. I guess the gift would still be mine because I was the one who bought it. Exactly so, replied the Buddha. Now you have just cursed me and been angry with me. But if I do not accept your curses, if I do not get insulted and angry in return, these curses will fall back upon you, the same as the gift returning to its owner. There was a book from my childhood that came to mind when I was thinking about the topic of mindfulness. It's this one right here, A Wrinkle in Time by Madeleine L'Engle. If you haven't read the book recently, it's the story of a girl named Meg, her brother Charles Wallace, and a neighbor boy, Calvin O'Keefe, who travel through time and space to save Meg's father from a dark force that's only defined as it. At the beginning of the story, Meg is filled with judgment. She feels that she is too ugly, too odd, and too different from her classmates to fit in. She feels like the whole town is judging her family for her father's absence, and she's wounded by this. She judges her own passionate beliefs in right and wrong and fairness as stubbornness and hot-headedness. L'Engle contrasts Meg with Charles Wallace, the little brother, who, like the Buddha in the story we just heard, does not accept unwanted gifts of judgment. Charles Wallace is able to let the narrow-minded opinions of the people in the town fall back to them, whereas Meg was more likely to clutch them close. Now, each time Meg has a lesson to learn, one of the things that L'Engle does is she brings her back to a period of enforced mindfulness. So this is the first time that it happens, the first time that Meg has a lesson to learn. It's the first time that they tesser, which is when they travel through space by wrinkling time together. She was completely alone. She had lost the protection of Calvin's hand. Charles was nowhere, either to save or to turn to. She was alone in a fragment of nothingness, no light, no sound, no feeling. Where was her body? She tried to move in a panic, but there was nothing to move. Just as light and sound had vanished, she was gone too. The corporeal Meg simply was not. Then she felt her limbs again. Her legs and arms were tingling faintly, as though they had been asleep. She blinked her eyes rapidly, but though she herself was somehow back, nothing else was. It was not as simple as darkness or absence of light. Darkness has a tangible quality. It can be moved through and felt. In darkness, you can bark your shins. The world of things still exists around you. She was lost in a horrifying void. Suddenly, she was aware of her heart beating rapidly within the cage of her ribs. Had it stopped before? The tingling of her arms and legs grew stronger, and suddenly she felt movement. This movement, she felt, must be the turning of the earth rotating on its axis, traveling its elliptical course about the sun. And this feeling of moving with the earth was somewhat like the feeling of being in the ocean, out in the ocean beyond the rising and falling of the breakers, lying on the moving water, pulsing gently with the swells, and feeling the gentle, inexorable tug of the moon. So when I think about Meg and her experience, sometimes I think about the way that we experience corpse pose at the end of yoga, where we close our eyes, let ourselves let consciousness go, we rest and try to rest ourselves completely into our mats. And then when we're coming back, we're supposed to tingle our arms and our legs before we open our eyes. Well, I remember when I was a child after reading this book, I would go to bed in my dark room and I would listen to my heartbeat in my own ears. What is it about being in darkness that sharpens our other senses? I have a constant ringing in my ears that I've nicknamed the music of the stars. And I felt that if I concentrated just right, I could listen to the music of the stars and feel the world spinning underneath me, adrift on our blue boat home, just like Meg. I did not know it at the time, but this too is mindfulness. When I was in high school, my mom had a copy of The Dancing Woolly Masters by Gary Zukav. I never took physics in high school because it conflicted with choir. So this book, describing quantum physics, was my introduction to concepts of particle physics. For example, this was the first time that I heard about entangled particles, which seems so foreign to me, that one particle could be completely separated in physical space from another particle, and yet acting on the one particle affects the other particle as well. Doesn't that seem amazing? Well, because Zukav combines the theories behind physics with philosophy in his book, many people have dismissed the Dancing Woolly Masters as pseudoscience. But it was after reading this book that I understood the concept that the mere act of observing can change the result of an experiment. This is true in particle physics, and it's also true in our own minds and bodies. The simple act of observing ourselves can create change. There is empirical evidence, there are studies, that mindfulness, the simple act of observing ourselves without judgment, has a beneficial effect on executive functioning. That's our ability to make decisions. There are lots of different studies that show this, but I came up with one particular example from, it's a study of student athletes published in the Neuroplasticity Journal at Hindawi. So if you've ever heard of a Stroop test, that's a test that's often used to test executive functions, and it involves words and colors. So the way this test works is a word is flashed on the screen, and then the person who's being tested has to respond with the color that the word is written in. Now, this is all very well when the word blue is written in blue ink, or the word red is written in red ink. But it's a much more difficult test when the word green is written in yellow ink, because what you're supposed to pull up is the word yellow, the color of the ink. But because we are conditioned to always read a word first, we're going to call it green. But people who have been practicing mindfulness, they tend to perform better on Stroop tests, in part because mindfulness promotes executive functioning. It promotes thinking rather than responding reflexively. In our culture, we're often conditioned to read reflexively. We look at a street sign and the meaning is instantly clear. But have you ever been to another country or to another section of a city where the street signs are not in English or not written in Western characters at all? I think about what that must be like for children, or what it was like when I was a child, to be surrounded by words that I couldn't read. Because, you know, children who are just learning to read, they don't have any problem with a Stroop test. You tell them, okay, what color is this? What color is the ink? And they're just going to pick out the colors because they're not reflexively reading all the words. And when you think about it, there are many things that our culture conditions us to do reflexively. How many of you have had the experience of driving to a place that you go to often, maybe work or school, grocery store, and upon arrival, you realize you have no recollection of how you got there at all? That, like Annie Dillard, your mind has been a blank slab of black asphalt. One of the pioneers who brought Buddhist teachings to the West, Jack Kornfeld, points out in his book, After the Ecstasy, the Laundry, that we cannot live forever in the now. We can't always be practicing mindfulness because we have the occasional flashes of connection with the universe, but we can't expect ourselves to live always in that state of nirvana, because part of what makes us human is our ability to look back at our past, to examine mistakes and triumphs. And part of what makes us successful as a species is planning forward into the future, setting goals, anticipating obstacles, having hope that we won't repeat our errors. But like the Heisenberg Uncertainty Principle that tells us the more we know about a particle's velocity, the less we know about its position, we don't know where we are unless we stop moving and look. This past year has been a big opportunity for all of us to stop moving and look. You know, it's interesting to see what it was like. I know that most of us are starting to get back to the way things were, where we're involved in things outside the house again. But when everything stopped, when we were spending all of our time with our families or spending all of our time cut off from our families, it was a strange experience. It gave us time to reflect on how we were making connections, who we were making connections with. And it gave us a chance to respond not reflexively with, oh, they emailed me this invitation, I better go, but to really consider whether or not it was the right thing to do. When we react reflexively, just somebody invited us, we have to go, or somebody asked us to do something, we have to do it, we are often accepting the dubious gifts of other people's expectations, allowing our to-do list to blind us to the daffodils, interpreting the blue words of the world as green because that's what we expect to see. It's hard to pay attention with an open and compassionate mind. It's hard to short circuit our habits so we can be present with the here and now. And in some ways, I'm grateful to the pandemic for giving me the option to short circuit my expectations and to sit with who I am and where I want to go. One message I took away from A Wrinkle in Time is that free will matters. How does free will interact with mindfulness? Well, we have the free will to choose where we focus. We choose where we give our attention. If we're constantly projecting our thoughts back to the immutable past or forward into the unknowable branches of the future, we miss the now where we can actually affect change with our decisions. The practice of giving the world our non-judgmental, compassionate acceptance makes the world a better place. Moving through the world with care and discernment makes us better people. Our actions have an effect on the world, but unless we stop to determine where we are and where we should go, we risk being tossed in an unanchored sea. Since I've recently been reading the Braver, Wiser blog a lot, I feel like a prayer is a good way to close today. Force that moves the stars in their orbits, causes the green shoots to return in the spring, and pushes the blood through our veins with our beating hearts. Help us to live with compassion. Help us to remember that we are as much a part of nature as the rain and the wind. Remind us that our failures are just as human as our successes, and that neither successes nor failures determine the whole of who we are. And most of all, teach us to experience the life that we are living, rather than simply reflexively going through the motions. Amen, salam, shalom, blessed be.
Thank you so much. That was really beautiful. Using mindfulness to become centered, and it's a powerful thing. So now is the time in our service when we recognize and lift up one another in love. Let us be fully present and listen with open hearts. If you wish to share a joy or a sorrow, please click on participants and then click raise hand, and we will help you to unmute. For everyone's benefit, please be brief. And I'm going to start things off by just saying that last Tuesday, I had a joy. It's my father's 90th birthday, and we got together with a big Zoom family reunion with people from the East Coast to the West Coast and up in Canada. And it was really a beautiful experience. And also, same day, I got my second vaccine shot. So, as I like to say, it's all good. So,
Gil, I have a sorrow. This is Sherry behind the scenes here. A friend of mine at work just had a brain tumor removed on Tuesday, and he's actually doing really well, but it certainly is a scary thought. And his name is Mark. So please keep him and his family in your prayers.
we will do that.
And
we're getting to you. Okay.
Good morning. I have a joy to share. I'm sure many of you have already heard, but Arcady had her baby April 8th. Arcady is our office administrator. She had a very difficult pregnancy and they took the baby a little bit early, but as far as I know, everyone's doing well. And the baby's name is Ileana Celeste. So if anybody would like to contribute to our group gift, I'm still collecting money. So you can contact me about that. But welcome to Ileana.
Wow. Well, thank you for sharing that. That's fantastic. Ileana Celeste. Wow, beautiful. Well,
Julian.
Julian.
Yeah, so this past week, there was actually a fire in my community. Took out a whole building of apartments, a whole block, 24 units in total. And while it was very, very sad that this happened, but the community response here was incredible. People putting up money, offering hotel rooms, but it's all being handled by the Red Cross, and just the outpouring of support coming from the local community towards these people who are now unhoused is, it's really wonderful and affirming to see that coming from the area where I'm living. It's very often that we get together as a community like that, so it's nice to see that.
Wow. It's amazing how bad things can bring out the best in people. I do not see anyone else. So, whoa. Mr. Appleton. Okay. Oh, wait.
There you go.
You could unmute.
It's actually not me. It's Karma wanted to show people that she just did a drawing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Great.
That
Thank
is
you.
quite nice. Thank you for sharing that. All right. Well, we will move on. Whether or not you shared today, for your joys, we in this community join you in celebration. And for any sorrows or concerns, spoken or unspoken, may you feel our sympathy and our compassion. Let's pause for just a moment of gratitude, silent meditation, and prayer. For our closing song this morning, Avi has chosen a very beautiful hymn called Find a Stillness.
Find a stillness, hold a stillness, let the stillness carry me. Find the silence, hold the silence, let the silence carry me. In the Spirit, by the Spirit, with the Spirit giving power, I will find true harmony. Seek the essence, hold the essence, let the essence carry me. Let me flower, help me flower, watch me flower, carry me. In the Spirit, by the Spirit, with the Spirit giving power, I will find true harmony. Find a stillness, hold a stillness, let the stillness carry me. I will find true harmony.
Thank you, Avi. What a beautiful song. And actually, that was a request from Emily. And maybe that's why it fits in so well with her sermon. Please feel free to join me as I read our closing words and our chalice is extinguished. The chalice is now extinguished, but its light lives on in the minds and hearts and souls of each one of you. Carry that flame with you as you leave this cyberspace and share it with those you know, with those you love, and most especially with those you have yet to meet. Our service is now concluded,